I tend to laugh or maybe roll my eyes when people say, but I don't know how to, or I can't, or I'm busy, or I've never been taught that, or you don't know my circumstances. Because I was raised by a dad who never said, I can't, who never said, I don't know how to. He just figured it out. He didn't come from privilege. He actually came from less than privilege, and that's a story for another day. But my dad determined early on in his life that there was nothing he couldn't do. And if he didn't know how to do it, that he could find someone to teach him. And if he couldn't find someone to teach him, he could find a book or a resource or watch somebody do it and reverse engineer it. And that has served him well. It's served his kids well. And it has really changed the lives of, I would say, hundreds of thousands of people. Let me tell you about that. I remember we moved again because my dad was a military officer for the United States Coast Guard. I'm very proud of all his years there, but as you may know, a military career is not a hugely profitable career, and as a family of 5, military housing was not only crowded, but not always a lot of room. Dad always prided himself on home ownership. So he would take his military housing allowance and we would buy a house wherever we were located. Well, he would typically pick out the house by himself because we were back wherever the last station was, wherever the last location was. So Mom was usually seeing it for the first time when we moved in. We walked into this house in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And I remember my mom, who was really trying to be supportive and positive, saying, "Oh, I like it, but where are we going to fit everyone?" Because it had one little bathroom and not enough bedrooms. And my dad very confidently said, "I'm going to add a second story. I'm going to put 2 bedrooms for the boys upstairs, and I'm going to add a bathroom and a staircase." And he proceeded to walk through the house and paint the picture for us of what that would look like. And my mom was nodding and being supportive. At least that's how I remember it. I'm sure they had a discussion later. But Mom was being supportive. And she said, but honey, you don't know how to do that. You don't have contractor skills." And he said, "It's okay, Connie. It's okay because I ordered these books." Well, I don't know if you remember, but I remember Time Life had a book club at that time. And there was a series of books on remodeling and building. There was a book on electricity. There was a book on plumbing. There was a book on sheetrock. There was a book on flooring. There were a series of books. Dad had subscribed to this book series, and he was confident that he could use those books and put a second story on that house. In his spare time, he was an officer, a high-ranking officer in the United States Coast Guard. So he did on his weekends and on nights and out of the spare budget, he put a second story on our house. We watched him read these books and put it into action. We watched him rip stuff out and have to redo it because it was wrong. We watched him open up the roof during rainy season, and we had to wait until things dried out before he could do something else. We remember things being wired wrong and him having to wait for the next book so he could rewire things. And we saw him never give up and never use an excuse. And by the time we moved out of that house, it was twice as big as when we moved in. It had a party deck in the back with a fire pit. It was an amazing, amazing house that my dad built based on books. And the story doesn't end there. My dad kept those books. And now he's in his late 70s and he's retired from the Coast Guard and he's retired from full-time ministry. And he and his buddies will pack up trailers and their tools and those Time Life books. They'll rebuild orphanages that are worn down from neglect and poverty. They will rebuild parsonages and homes from hurricanes and natural disasters. He built another house from the ground up, he and my mom's dream home several years ago. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and he learned how to do that through books. So when you say to me, "I don't know how, I can't figure this out, where do I learn that? I don't have time," I guess if I shrug and squinch up my face a little bit, it's because before Google, before YouTube, before home study courses, my dad changed his future, his family's future, and the future of tens of thousands of orphans and pastors and church members and community members, one book at a time. What's your reason? What's your excuse? Where's the resource? How can you find a way and make a way? So let me ask you this. What are you building? Is it a house? Is it a future? Is it a family? Is it a legacy? Is it your bank account? Is it your business? I'm going to encourage you to pick up the hammer and pick up the book, and one lesson at a time, one book at a time, one change at a time. You've got this. Can I just encourage you to carry on?